How is he able to touch the mansion when the monsters can't? Whispered Daniel so low that Wade barely heard him. The protective barrier only repels those who wish to do harm or are evil. Spoke a voice that hit Wade's eardrums like silk and honey, like his very vocal cords had been strung from gold. I could just open the door, said the handsome man, but that's not very polite, is it? What if he's lying? Whispered Daniel. What if he's knocking so quick that it's not properly setting off the barrier? What if he can't actually come in? Continued Daniel. Like he needs permission, like a vampire. Look at him, said Daniel a little bit louder than he would have liked. He's perfectly beautiful, ridiculously strong, has supernatural powers, and his voice. It's like almost hypnotic. Like you have this urge to want to appease him or something. I know that you feel it too, Wade. It's like... Daniel was interrupted by the door opening and quickly shutting. The handsome man now stood smiling at them, not 8 feet away, holding his black box in which Wade could now see was covered in about 20 different and ornate-looking locks. Sorry, but it seemed like that was going to take a while, said the man, and nightfall is almost among us. He was right, thought Wade, as he peered out of the kitchen window, watching the last of the golden and amber light fade to black. The Lokery was right about the betrayal of John's lieutenant. Sometime in the next hour, a small army of these vile creatures will appear 1.5 miles to the north, or directly in front of the mansion. The mountain's peak is now flat and large, giving it about an area of 3 miles long and wide to battle in. As I said, the Ancient and his army will appear on the far north side, for that is where I'm sensing the anomaly, which is an abnormally weak spot or a rip in the veil. Taking away their elements of surprise will not be enough though, said the beautiful stranger seriously, not even close. The handsome man knelt down and opened his box, revealing 3 very different and unique items. He removed a very large black key first, about the size of a loaf of bread, with runes covering it that glowed like intense fire. Although the key was remarkably light, it carried with it an all-consuming aura of pure dread, like Wade was holding something that no human should ever touch. This made him hand it back to the handsome man rather quickly, where he placed it back and withdrew the second item. A shining gold horn was handed to Wade, and unlike the black key, the horn radiated positive energy and felt slightly warm and tingly to the touch. It had beautiful looking sigils, and Wade noticed that it was actually made of an elegant white metallic substance that radiated golden energy, which Wade first mistook for being the actual metal. Ending the trifecta of the box's contents, the man retrieved the third and final item. He presented a pristine-looking crystal jar, in which a white mist-like energy seemed to be infused within the crystal itself, making it glow ever so faintly. The handsome gentleman spent the next 15 minutes explaining exactly how and when to use these special items. The man gave absolutely no explanations as to what the items were, or what they even did upon putting them into play, only the order of their use and precisely how and when to use them. I'm sending a very good friend to assist you in battling the Ancient One. In fact, said the handsome man to Wade, I believe that you've already briefly met. Before Wade could say a word, the man continued on. If my friend perishes, please, open the crystal jar that I gave you and let his essence go inside. He will be drawn to it, and then release that essence inside the locked room, please. Ow! Yelled Wade, looking to his hand, and he watched his blood float from his palm, where a small cut now appeared, and his blood glided his way to the box, where it dispersed and flew inside each of the locks, making it shut closed. Wade watched the small hand on his palm heal instantly, while the handsome man spoke. This box will only open for you now, Wade. Nothing besides your free will can open it now. Good luck and God bless," said the handsome man as he swiftly exited the mansion and drove away into the night. Wade walked over to the black box in which he apparently now claimed ownership of and kneeled down to open it. The box opened effortlessly for him, and upon doing so, Wade saw a note that was not there originally, and he picked it up to examine its contents where it read as such. "Wade, do not underestimate the creature known as Alakran. He is not like the rest of his kind, both genetically and personally. He used a teleportation stone to instantly transmit behind me, and although they are a single-use artifact, I sensed more of them, which means that he still has at least one more stone at his disposal. I've been spying on the darkness for a very long time now, and Lakran, although not as powerful, is far more capable and intelligent than the ancient Lokari he awaits. He has a knack for surviving and always finding a way to come out on top, regardless of the odds that he faces. He is a rare and lethal combination of patience, power, and intelligence. In fact, the monster is a genius. He always has a plan B or C. Most likely, he would just use the teleportation stone to save himself and transport to a safe location. But do not underestimate him or give him any opening. Adhere to the training that Rose taught you and do everything I instructed you to do exactly. If you do so, victory and glory will be yours, my friends." Wade closed the piece of paper and exhaled deeply while shaking his head side to side. An electronic humming sound issued from the living room, and upon Wade and Daniel inspecting the situation, noticed a hideaway flat-screen TV was slowly ascending from the hardwood floor in the living room. "Hey there, boys," a strong feminine voice said right before the two men reached the flat screen. "Hey, Rose," said Daniel excitedly. "Thanks for sending the model to give us more stuff. But why didn't he stay? It seemed like he could have really helped out too." But Rose cut in before he could finish his sentence. "We have no clue who that was, and if he didn't dispose of Lokari, I would tell you to throw that box in the hyper-incinerator downstairs. I'm still debating it actually, but she sighed tiredly. "We simply just don't have the time to reevaluate things, let alone come up with an entire new game plan. No, we must have faith that the Creator sent him to us, and more importantly, Arella herself, so that we could trust the man wholly and completely. So that's more than enough to stave my doubts. Now, I'm going to need you boys to open the back sliding glass door and prepare yourselves to not freak out. Your backup has just arrived. You'll soon see why John had to make the back entrance so large," Rose said, laughing just a bit. "Please allow them to take their pick of weapons and artifacts. Not that they would need your permission, it's just polite." "Sure," answered Wade. "We already have almost everything at the ready," he said, nodding at the wall behind the couch, where he and Daniel had an assortment of weapons and magical items lined up against the back wall. "Oh, Rose," exclaimed Wade hurriedly. "Lochran mentioned a trader that helped." "It's already been handled," interrupted Rose. "Just do everything I said with those mechs and weapons and you should be fine. I'll pray for you all. God bless," and with that final statement, the screen retracted back into the floor, taking Rose with it. "Well," Daniel said while walking towards the back sliding door, which was ridiculously huge indeed, spanning about 15 feet high. "I'm gonna go ahead and open this up for our friends." Daniel drew the word out slowly, from the shock of what stood outside before him. Daniel stood frozen in place like a deer in headlights, not being able to even mutter a word yet. 4 fully transformed and hulking lichens stood waiting outside the door, surveying the area behind them every few seconds, as to not be taken off guard by the Lochran. The one in front pointed at the door handle with a dagger-like claw while staring at Daniel. The awestruck young man came out of his shocked daze apologizing and quickly opened up the back door. "Come in," Daniel said hesitantly. Is that a request or a question, kid? One of the werewolves in the back said, laughing. Oh, sorry, I'm Daniel. He started to apologize in a mild panic, but he was silenced when an oversized, dark brown, furry clawed hand softly landed on his shoulder. It's alright, kid. Me's just messing with ya. Everything's gonna be fine. Daniel noticed that the polite creature retracted his claws before he actually grabbed his shoulder. Although Wade and Daniel were priorly informed of the arrival of such creature by Loughran's comment to the balcony, neither man expected the sight that stood before them. Two of them had a dark brown fur, one black and the last a silver shiny coat that was quite unique. That's not what took the men off guard though, no. It was the fact that they were all wearing battle armor. The armor was not simple or primitive by any means. It looked to be a combination of a metallic substance, with both high-tech and magical components, infused into some kind of customized Royal Knight's armor. It didn't cover their entire body, just about 80%, with gaps in places as to not slow their movement, with the armor being thicker over the lichen's vulnerable areas. The armor was also covered in magical runes that glowed a divine whitish tint like their eyes, which looked as if the moon itself sat around their pupils, like their irises were composed of a pure lunar energy, like a full moon, which tonight was not. On top of all this was a unique technical aspect to their battle attire, gauntlets which appeared to have a rotating ammo drum around a tri-barrel nozzle, in which the top barrel was larger than the twin bottom two. Their elbows and knees had a similar structure but with two over and under barrels, with the top barrel being larger than the bottom as well. Even their weapons appeared to have weapons fused on. The lighter portions of armor seemed to move fluently, perfectly matching any movement that they made, giving it a visible consistency somewhere between solid and liquid. Wade could tell at least two of the Lycan warriors were high-ranking or even royalty, for one of the larger dark brown Lycans wore a golden armor and the other silver-furred one wore a shiny platinum armor that almost matched his fur, save for how parts of the armor shined pristinely. The last two, one with black fur the same size as the golden leader, and the other dark brown furred one who was considerably larger than the others in both bulk and height, both wore a dark gray armor that still contained all of the lethal, technical, and magical components as the first two, just without the precious metal flair. So, who's Wade and who's Daniel? Said the Lycan wearing the golden armor. I'm Wade and this is Daniel, Wade said, pointing vaguely at Daniel with his thumb. I am General Raiden, said the gold Lycan and obvious leader. This is my new lieutenant, Thorn, pointing a clawed index finger at the silver wolf, who was just a bit shorter than the rest, but exceptionally muscled. This is Reinhardt, he said, pointing at the other dark brown Lycan about his own height. And this mountain of muscle in the back is Warbane, referring to the extra-large black-furred Lycan. Wait a minute, said Wade worriedly while backing up slowly. Loughran said that the Lycan lieutenant had betrayed everyone, and had helped the Lokri bring an army through. That's why he said his new lieutenant, answered Thorn. That's right, said the general. I ripped his throat out myself for his monumental betrayal, and if I had been more observant from the beginning, none of this would have come to pass. I accept full responsibility for this devastating oversight, said the general in a melancholily and partially defeated sounding tone. It's not your fault, said Thorn. That's right, Warbane added. We all trusted him, sir. Excuse me, said Wade as he gestured towards the wall, but there are still a bunch of weapons and items here if you need anything. Daniel and I are pretty loaded down as it is. Yes, I can see that, Raiden said in slight surprise. Do you have any experience operating a sword and shield mech suit? The general asked, pointing at the light yet extremely high-tech looking chest armor that they wore, in which an illuminated S with a sword through it vertically was lit up visibly in the center of Wade's armor, whereas Daniel's had an illuminated shield with a glowing S in the middle. Yes, answered Wade. Not only did we practice all of their immediate functions for over 5 hours straight, but also how the suits work together as one. Yeah, Daniel jumped in enthusiastically. Since I have intermediate martial arts and kickboxing skills, I took shield. And since Wade is a hunter and excellent marksman, he obviously took sword. Are you also familiar with the nanodispersion sequence, where in case you take on too much damage and need to abort, while still dispersing the suit's remains at enemies like shrapnel? Yeah, said Wade. I mean, after you understand the process, it's mostly just pointing, added Daniel confidently. Good, said Raiden, apparently pleased with the two men's answer. Now help me set up these orb staffs and rocket launchers by the front door. The others should be gathering up any other large projectile weaponry from inside. While we work, Wade, I'm going to need you to fill me in on whatever the blonde man told and gave you. And more importantly, why, said Raiden. After about 20 minutes of preparing weaponry and Wade explaining everything in detail about the mysterious handsome man, including the exact instructions the man gave for the box's contents, everyone gathered in the living room to discuss their battle plan. Wade looked around, now understanding why John had such very high ceilings, for the lichens fit everywhere quite comfortably. Well, Raiden began, I suppose it now comes down to one question. Do we trust the handsome man, which everyone has now officially dubbed him? Do we even have a choice? Thorn added. Not if what Lochran said is true, answered Raiden. But regardless, we're going to need eyes on the north side of the mountain for sure. Getting caught off guard by 50 Lokrai and an ancient will not put us in a good position. I hope John has a plan, like a really good plan, exclaimed Thorn impatiently. 50 Lokrai and an ancient, even with the sword and shield mechs ran by experts, it would be highly improbable to win, Raiden, said Thorn. Well, there won't be any shortness of glory now, will there? Answered Raiden. Alright then, Thorn said excitedly now, just making sure that we all understand. Glory it is. Raiden then brought out a box that was green with little glowing pink designs and sigils radiating all over it. When the box was opened, a pink glowing ball of light slowly floated out and hovered in place, directly in front of Raiden's face. Hello, Flora, Raiden began. We're going to need eyes on the far north side of the mountain peak. We're expecting some rather unpleasant company, and soon. Yes, answered Flora, who Wade assumed to be a fairy. I can already sense a tear in the veil in that direction growing weaker by the minute. We don't have much time. There is a single Lokari pacing around the woodline, Raiden. An unnaturally powerful one at that too, warned Flora. Yes, he's alone until his backup arrives, said Raiden. Sir, maybe it's just easier if we take him out now, said Reinhardt. No, Wade loudly interrupted. He has a teleportation stone, likely more than one. The entire squad of Lycans turned to stare at Wade. The handsome man told me, said Wade. I saw Lochran use one to try and get the jump on him with my own eyes, but he got his butt royally kicked instead. The handsome man also told me to never underestimate him, that he has lots of tricks up his sleeve and a genius level of intelligence. Teleportation stones are very rare, said Raiden. Seriously, if he's managed to acquire more than one, then perhaps this mysterious blonde guy is right about Lochran. Sir, I can't stress enough how quickly we're running out of time, said Flora worriedly. Raiden opened the front door, and everyone watched as the fairy hurriedly flew through the woods, illuminating the ground and trees with a pink glow as she traversed through the forest. As she flew about 30 feet in, two large pink spheres became visible, perfectly parallel to one another. No doubt the giant black, glossy eyes of Lochran. Instead of absorbing the light as usual, Flora's energy was easily reflected upon his eyes, no doubt due to some sort of fairy magic. "Did you?" Wade started and was answered before his question could conclude. "Yeah, I saw him," answered Raiden. "At least we know where he is now." "Wade," a soft, feminine voice screamed from within the forest in apparent panic before Raiden could shut the door. "Wade, oh God, please help me." Wade grabbed a customized AA-12 fully auto shotgun from the weapons that they placed by the door and ran outside, throwing all fear and caution to the wind. "Sarah!" screamed Wade, walking towards the forest in a panicked yet determined demeanor. "Sarah, I'm here. Please, where are you? Everyone armed and outside now," yelled Raiden as he grabbed a particularly large L782 general-purpose machine gun that had extra-large customization in order to fit the Lycan's larger biology, as did about 1/3 of all the weapons. Reinhardt and Warbane wasted no time, as the first grabbed an Anzio 20mm rifle that was taller than a grown man, and a Magnum revolver so large that it looked almost comical, while the latter grabbed a rotating minigun and followed Raiden outside. Daniel tried grabbing an L782 similar to Raiden's before Thorn stopped him. "Whoa, kid," said Thorn, halting him. "That may be a bit much for you. Here, try this," Thorn said, grabbing the L782 and thrusting a different weapon into his hand. "This is a next-generation machine gun that your military is developing. It fires 6.8mm rounds with an extra-large capacity, and it won't flail around everywhere when you're firing it. We have enough to worry about without throwing friendly fire into the mix," Thorn said, grinning at him, which made Daniel flinch at the sight. "Are you smiling at me?" asked Daniel. "Yeah, kid," answered Thorn, laughing. "Well, it's terrifying," said Daniel, referring to the massive fangs and overpowered jaw of the Lycan being curled up toward him. After a short burst of shared laughter, Thorn and Daniel rushed outside to aid the others, just in time to see Wade almost at the forest's edge. Before Raiden leaped to distance, no less than 100 yards, landing in front of Wade facing the woods. Raiden quickly turned to face Wade, kneeling down a bit to face his eye level in order to explain and dissuade him from going any further. "Lachlan is tricking you, Wade. They can sense our greatest fear and regrets in order to manipulate their prey. Please, Wade, it's a trap. Just to follow me back until I can explain more," Raiden pleaded, glancing back every few seconds to make sure the demon was not advancing on them. Wade lowered his weapons and began to follow Raiden, as the others covered their approach. "I trusted you, Wade," the woman's voice cried out again. "You were supposed to protect me, but you drove me right into the grave. I didn't even want to go. You talked me into it, remember? You said that it would be fun, but it's not fun, Wade. Unspeakable things are done to me, over and over, and it's your fault. You put me here, Wade. It's your fault that I'm dead." The voice had turned from pleading and feminine into a more guttural and threatening tone, becoming more low-pitched and demonic as it carried on, until finally it was just Lachlan's voice, laughing in maniacal hysteria. A tear ran down Wade's cheek as all 6 warriors stood lined up in front of the mansion, weapons raised, listening to Lachlan get a sick pleasure out of Wade's emotional pain. Daniel peered from one end of the line of warriors to the other when a mischievous grin appeared on his face before he stated loudly, "Man, let's just predator this dude." Everyone broke formation where they had been aiming into the woods, and stared quizzically at Daniel. "Predator him?" Warbane asked, apparently as confused as the others. "Yeah," answered Daniel, amped up a bit. "Like in the movie Predator. After the creature kills the big cowboy guy and his buddy picks up his minigun, and the whole squadron lines up and unloads on him." "Yeah, I've seen it, kid," says Thorn. "They cut the jungle in half, use up almost all their ammo, and barely graze the creature one time. Is that your game plan, you mean?" Thorn asked, laughing a bit in jest. "It was still pretty cool, though," Daniel replied confidently, and laughing a bit to himself, as the majority of the warriors agreed with him out loud almost simultaneously. He's right, sir, Warbane said. Well, not that specific plan, but taking Lochran out now, I mean. We could all just charge over and tear him into little annoying pieces, sir. He shouldn't be able to stand a chance. No, he's got the stone, remember, and possibly even other tricks. It's an unnecessary risk. We'll take him out with the rest of the trash, ordered Raiden. Now, let's get back in and finish preparing. The Valkyrie out there is just trying to divide us before his backup arrives. The six entered the mansion and shut the door, sealing off their inevitable fate for a short time, and proceeded to set up for the coming storm. We're still down one until John arrives, stated Thorne. Man, we could really use that hand of his, not to mention his seasoned experience in unwinnable battles. 2, interjected Wade. We're still down 2 if what the handsome man said is true. He said that he would be sending a close friend to aid us in the coming fight, so I guess that we'll see. Wade said with just a hint of doubt in his voice. Well, now's not really the time to be fashionably late, said Thorne. But I know John, and if he's still breathing, which is very likely, he'll show. Everything is prepped, sir. All there is to do now is wait, said Reinhardt to Thorne, as he was staring out the kitchen window intensely. Please, you don't have to say sir unless we're actually on official Guardian business, and never while we're alone, Thorne said, laughing a bit. No, replied Reinhardt confidentially. You've earned it, and you've saved my life countless times, Thorwald. It's my honor to say as such. Thorne turned and nodded at Reinhardt once before turning back to gaze adamantly out the kitchen window. Waiting is the worst part, Reinhardt added, watching him. Do you know how many battles I've just... Reinhardt began, before the sound of a whooshing helicopter blade was picked up in the distance by the two Lycan's super advanced sense of hearing. Thorne ran to the back porch to inspect the situation with Reinhardt close behind. Wade and Daniel ran outside quickly, as Raiden and Warbane casually made their way out. It's John, yelled Thorne enthusiastically. He's here, Raiden. The helicopter quickly made its way to the location and circled the mansion once before positioning itself above the front entrance of the mansion, with the side of the chopper and a rather large calibered machine gun facing the woods. Before anyone could establish any radio signal with John's chopper, it let out a volley of machine gun fire into the woods directly in front of the mansion. No doubt trying to hit Lochran, thought Wade. Before the helicopter stopped firing, it dropped 2 large boxes that resembled shiny ammo caches and lowered a rope, in which John himself descended down skillfully.